be able to face you today. I had almost a month of pondering and reflecting on when should I compose and put out some content for you, because I've been busy and I've also been doing inner work, stuff that I'd want to focus on. And now that I had the time, the energy and attention to sit here, so it's finally here. And for the debut episode of my channel, we are going to talk about, under a category of deep talks, we are going to talk about why we're so afraid of being judged. I know that I too am afraid of being judged, and you too are also afraid of being judged. And this is not entirely your fault, but this is an outcome, an output that stems from our programmings in our past environments, in the environments that we were accustomed to. Because if you will notice, there is a difference between knowing ourselves and knowing about ourselves. Because when you know yourself, you know the facets, the pillars that compose and construct you. But when you know about yourself, it speaks of knowing it through the definitions, through the labels brought upon by others. So you're knowing about yourself. It's kind of an outward description. And as children, as kids, a part of our identities are built upon how our family, friends, and other people who have distinction over us, our securities and our definitions are based upon their opinions, upon their judgments of us or perceptions. And as we grow up, we're actually having multiple bouts of insecurities within ourselves, because we know about ourselves, but we don't really know ourselves. Not through the perceptions or the perspectives of others. And this is one factor, one variable that contributes in why we're afraid of being judged. Another scenario that I can think of is that if you notice, we like to hang out with people who think the same about us, right? But there's another reality truth to it. Because when we join or interact with people that don't think the same about us, we feel uncomfortable. We feel like we're not aligned with them. When in truth, these people may just be telling or marking on things that they've observed. And when people don't think the same way about us, like what we think we should be, or what we think others should think of us, is not working, we may feel angered, hurt, embarrassed even. And this leads us to a situation where what we think others should think of us seems much more important than what we actually are. Or what we think we are is actually more important than what we are. Which is kind of problematic because this compounds on perceptions and perceptions, judgments and judgments that we received at a young age and accepted as adults. So when a judgment is being thrown at us, it's either a fact about us or a falsehood. And if we do know what and who we actually are, at the very least at the basic tenets, our responses will be more calculated, or shall I say, neutral. Because, for example, when I know that I'm not a fast runner and somebody tells me that I am so lame and I cannot run fast, should I be angry because somebody told the truth, or that I was disappointed because he didn't perceive me to be a fast runner just as how I want others to perceive me to be? Either way, anger is not the appropriate response, right? But anger actually is one of the first steps that we can assess and feel, so we can know ourselves more. Anger is not to be avoided, prevented, or hid deep inside of us. It's actually to be felt and experienced, because in doing this and doing that, we can actually dig deeper into what triggers us. Something that should be celebrated because it means that we can improve something. Am I over offering or extending my energies to it? And if it's not true about me, then if I really know myself that it's not true about me, then why should I be worked up? It's okay to feel this anger, but we can always have the time, space, and allowance to feel this anger and this attachment to the opinions and judgments of others was all right and understandable. In actuality, being ecstatic or being euphoric about others, validating us or complimenting us is actually a similar thing to these reactions to harsh judgments. They are two sides of one coin. When you're being triggered and angered or hurt by a judgment of somebody, and when you are happy and euphoric about a validation or compliment, an affirmation that is extended by somebody to you, they are two sides of the same coin. And it's not to say that it's bad. The responses are all valid. It's just that when we respond, we may take a little moment or time to consciously evaluate if our responses come from a state of pure appreciation, acknowledgement, or recognition, or from a state of, yes, that person is exactly thinking how I want that person to think of me. Yes, that person is aligning with how I want my reputation to be seen. Because that would be a different thing. And that's a sign that we need to delve into our inner work more. I also like to tackle about being careless or not caring about the judgment of others at all, because it's a really tempting idea, right? To not give a damn about something. And sure, it's easy to feel that, but this is also a sign of a symptom that fear of avoiding our attachments, avoiding how we interact with others through being ourselves. We are shutting off interpersonal connection and communication and possible honing of our responses, and also putting a barrier. And can also be a case where we are afraid that we will not please others. Like when others disagree with us, we are afraid that we are not abiding by their standards, that we are not leveling up to their requirements so they can validate or they can be pleased of us, which hones us into a codependency sphere where our words, our values are surrendered to other people. Our values are surrendered to other people, right? And not achieving or fulfilling the standards of people will disregard or discard our worths and values, because we have established the security of our identities to how others will perceive and accept them. And ultimately, what we're actually afraid of is ourselves, because ourselves can be the greatest critics, right? We are afraid of the judgments that we have for ourselves. We cannot fulfill the standards, the requirements, all the I must within ourselves. We might feel like we're worthless, and this ruthless inner critic will start to pump all over. Our critic, what our ego wants others to see of us, seems much more important than what we actually are. And therefore it's a crucial activity or journey to talk and assess this ego that creates an identity for us, so that we can slowly detach from the ego identity and align with what is really vibrating within, what authentic energy and self there is, on what really gives our hearts joy, on what pumps our passions, without the need to prove this to anyone, without the need to conform to the identity that we want others to see of us, but simply just doing the things that we want, that we love, and that inherently gives us this excitement and this laughter and happiness, and of course the neutral state of bliss that can be achieved when we're being true with ourselves. What we think we are, should be, is not the same with what we actually are. Ultimately, this comes to a practice, because knowing ourselves, aligning to who we really are, and honoring this core, this essence, despite the triggers. This will be a lifelong practice. Our egos will always have something to say. We cannot completely discard the ego, but we can't make friends with it. We can understand it more. We can understand our past experiences. So there may be something that we really are, that who we actually are, but we're not forgetting that we're also ever changing. So we may know who we actually are, what we actually are, or know our truths, but also know that these truths can change over time. You should remember that you are more than the composed identities that others in ourselves formed. You are more than these definitions, and these definitions can tie your value worth down. Your value and worth are inherent. They are already within you and without you. And these definitions cannot account to the vastness of who you are. They cannot account to your ever-changing beauty and evolution. They cannot account to your realities and truths that will always transform as you transform. So why should we settle to labels and definitions that are not even close, or if they are close, will not be our permanent box or structure? We should not limit ourselves to these structures, and that includes opinions and judgments of others and of ourselves. What we can do is to let experience flow, let ourselves grow, and cultivate an environment, inner and outer environment, that welcomes all perspectives and perceptions without being swayed back and forth, without the requirement to conform to one. This may not be easy, but this path is all worth it, because you are so worth it, and you're so valuable, so valuable, even without achievements, even without your reputation, even without your identity. You're so valuable just by existing. So I'd like to thank you for being in this space, safe space, hopefully, that we both cultivated together. Thank you for coming into this community and having this conversation with me and all others. I want to say that I'm beyond proud of you for all that you've done and how far that you've come. I am beyond proud of you. Just by your mere existence, I am so proud of you, and I'm really thankful that you're such a beauty, and it's such a blessing to be with you, existing in this timeline. It's such a blessing to be living in this period with you. And I hope to see you soon. If you want to talk about something else, feel free to comment down below or message me through my email. And I hope to see you soon. I love you with all that I am and all that there is. you soon.